Law of gravity. Isaac Newton, a brilliant English physicist, asked himself a question. Why do objects always fall vertically downwards towards the center of the Earth? In 1687, he published his famous Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy, where he formulated the law of universal gravitation. Newton realized that the same force that attracts an apple to the ground holds the moon in orbit around the Earth, and the planets around the sun. This was revolutionary. Before him, it was believed that celestial bodies moved according to their own divine laws. Newton showed that the universe obeys unified mathematical law. Electromagnetism. In the 19th century, electricity and magnetism were considered completely different phenomena. But then came Michael Faraday, a man who, without a formal education, changed the world. In 1831, he discovered electromagnetic induction. If you move a magnet inside a coil of wire, an electric current is generated. This discovery became the foundation for generators and electric motors. Before Faraday, electricity was only obtained from chemical batteries. But afterward, it could be produced mechanically, on an industrial scale. But the real revolution was made by James Clerk Maxwell, who in the 1860s created the theory of the electromagnetic field. He mathematically proved that electricity and magnetism are two sides of the same coin, and light is an electromagnetic wave. Without this discovery, we would have no radio, no television, and no mobile connection. Theory of relativity. The year is 1905. Albert Einstein is only 26 years old, but he already understands time and space are not absolute. In the special theory of relativity, he showed that time flows differently for observers moving at different speeds. If you fly into space at a speed close to the speed of light, only a few years will pass for you. But on Earth, generations could change during that time. And the famous formula E equals mc squared showed that mass and energy are equivalent. But Einstein didn't stop there. In 1915, he created the general theory of relativity, where gravity is not a force, but the curvature of space-time by massive bodies. Imagine a stretched sheet with a heavy ball placed on it. It will bend. In the same way, massive bodies like the sun curve the space around them. It all started in 1900, when Max Planck suggested that energy is emitted not continuously, but in portions, quanta. This was so revolutionary that Planck himself didn't believe his own idea for a long time. Then Niels Bohr created an atomic model where electrons revolve in specific orbits. But the real breakthrough happened in the 1920s, when Werner Heisenberg, Erwin Schrödinger, and others created the mathematical apparatus of quantum mechanics. They discovered that at the atomic level, completely crazy laws apply. A particle can be in two places at the same time. An electron behaves both as a particle and as a wave, and the mere fact of observation affects the outcome of the experiment. Heisenberg formulated the uncertainty principle. It is impossible to simultaneously measure exactly both the position and the speed of a particle. Einstein did not accept this theory, saying the famous phrase, "God does not play dice with the universe." But quantum mechanics works. Without it, there would be no transistors, no lasers, and no modern computers. The end of the 19th century, Wilhelm Röntgen, a German physicist, is experimenting with cathode rays in his lab. He notices that a screen covered with a special compound is glowing, even though the tube is covered with black cardboard. Something invisible is penetrating through obstacles. Röntgen calls these rays X-rays, meaning unknown. But the most amazing thing happened next. Röntgen took the first X-ray photograph in history. The hand of his wife, Anna Bertha. The bones and her wedding ring were clearly visible on the picture. Seeing this, she exclaimed, "I have seen my death." The first image showed that the rays pass through soft tissue, but are stopped by bones and metal. The news spread across the world instantly. Within a year, X-ray machines were used in hospitals to find bullets and fractures. In Russia, in St. Petersburg, a young professor, Dmitry Mendeleev, is working on a textbook on the fundamentals of chemistry. He needs to somehow systematize the 63 known elements. Mendeleev writes the properties of each element on separate cards and lays them out like a game of solitaire, trying to find a pattern. And suddenly, it dawns on him. If you arrange the elements by increasing atomic weight, their properties repeat at specific intervals. On March 1st, 1869, Mendeleev publishes his periodic system. But the genius of the discovery was not just in systematization. Mendeleev left empty cells for elements not yet discovered, and even predicted their properties. When gallium, scandium, and germanium were later discovered, their properties matched Mendeleev's predictions with astonishing accuracy. It was an absolute triumph. The young Charles Darwin sets off on a 5-year voyage around the world, on the Galapagos Islands. Darwin notices an amazing thing. Finches on different islands have different beak shapes. Although they clearly share a common ancestor, each beak is adapted to its specific food. This observation became the key to a magnificent idea. Darwin returns to England and spends 20 years gathering evidence, afraid to publish his theory, knowing how it would shock society. Finally, in 1859, the book On the Origin of Species is released. Darwin explains, all species descend from common ancestors, and the driving force of evolution is natural selection. Individuals with useful traits survive and reproduce more often, passing these traits to their offspring. It was a revolution. Man was no longer the crown of creation, but became a part of nature. The church was in shock, but the facts. In the 17th century, a Dutchman, Antonio van Leeuwenhoek, a cloth merchant, is grinding lenses to magnify fabrics, but his lenses turned out to be of such high quality that he was able to see what no one had seen before. In 1674, he examines a drop of water from a lake and discovers a whole world of tiny creatures, which he called animalcules, little animals. Leeuwenhoek wrote to the Royal Society of London, "I have discovered living creatures in a drop of water, and there were so many of them that the water seemed alive." They didn't believe him until a commission confirmed his observations. Leeuwenhoek was also the first to see bacteria by examining dental plaque. Just imagine, before Leeuwenhoek, no one knew about the existence of microorganisms. He revealed an invisible universe right under our noses. Throughout his life, he made over 500 lenses and made numerous discoveries, including red blood cells and
Cambridge, England. Two young scientists, James Watson and Francis Crick, suddenly announced that they have discovered the secret of life. They deciphered the structure of DNA, the molecule that stores genetic information. It turned out that DNA is a double helix, looking like a twisted ladder. The steps of this ladder consist of pairs of bases, adenine pairs with thymine, guanine with cytosine. This simple structure explained how genetic information is stored and copied. But behind this discovery was a dramatic story. Rosalind Franklin, a talented X-ray crystallographer, took clear X-ray images of DNA showing the helical structure. Without her knowledge, this data was passed to Watson and Crick. Franklin was not included in the 1962 Nobel Prize, as she had died of cancer by that time, and the prize is not awarded posthumously. Today, her contribution is recognized. The discovery of the DNA structure launched a revolution. We learned to read genes, create genetically modified organisms, and clone animals. In 2003, the Human Genome Project was completed, fully decoding our DNA. At the end of the 18th century, smallpox was the scourge of humanity. It killed millions of people. English Dr. Edward Jenner noticed that milkmaids who had recovered from mild cowpox did not get infected with the real smallpox. In 1796, he conducts a risky experiment. He takes material from the sore of a milkmaid, Sarah Nelms, who was infected with cowpox, and inoculates an 8-year-old boy, James Phipps. The boy suffered a mild illness. A month and a half later, Jenner injects him with real smallpox. The boy did not get sick. That's how the first vaccine appeared, from the Latin word vacca, meaning cow. Jenner published the results, but at first he was met with mockery. Caricatures showed people growing cow horns after the vaccination. Jenner didn't patent his discovery, wishing it to bring benefit to everyone. Today, vaccines save millions of lives, from polio, measles, tetanus, and other diseases. Mid-19th century, doctors did not wash their hands before delivering babies, and women died en masse from childbed fever. The miasma theory dominated, believing that diseases spread through bad air. But several scientists, independently of each other, came to a revolutionary idea. Diseases are caused by living microorganisms. In France, Louis Pasteur proved that microbes cause fermentation and food spoilage. He invented pasteurization, heating to destroy microbes. In Germany, Robert Koch formulated Koch's postulates, criteria proving that a specific microbe causes a specific disease. Koch discovered the agents of tuberculosis, cholera, and anthrax. It was their work that laid the foundation for microbiology. Doctors started washing their hands and sterilizing instruments, which sharply reduced mortality. The germ theory changed everything, from medicine to the food industry. Today we know about viruses, bacteria, and fungi, but the foundation remains the same. 1928, London. Scottish bacteriologist Alexander Fleming returns from vacation and notices that in one of the petri dishes with Staphylococcus cultures, mold had grown. Around it, the bacteria had died. Fleming realized the penicillium mold secretes a substance that kills bacteria. He named it penicillin, but Fleming couldn't isolate a pure drug, and his discovery was forgotten for 10 years. Only in 1940,
an Oxford group of scientists managed to purify penicillin and conduct trials. The first patient, a policeman with blood poisoning from a rose scratch, began to recover. But the supply of penicillin ran out and he died. However, it became clear this is a miracle drug.
During World War II, penicillin saved thousands of soldiers from gangrene and sepsis. It was called the miracle drug. Interestingly, Fleming warned, if penicillin is used incorrectly, bacteria will develop resistance. His words turned out to be prophetic. (1896), Paris. French physicist Henri Becquerel is studying the phosphorescence of uranium salts. He wraps a photographic plate in black paper, places the uranium salt on top and leaves it in the sun, expecting the sunlight to cause radiation. But the weather is cloudy for several days, and Becquerel puts the experiment away in a drawer. When he developed the plate, he saw a clear image of the uranium crystal. The radiation occurred without an external energy source, spontaneously. Becquerel had discovered radioactivity. But the real heroes of this story are Marie and Pierre Curie. Marie discovered that thorium is also radioactive, and the uranium ore, uraninite, radiates stronger than pure uranium. That meant there were unknown elements in the ore. In 1898, the Curies discovered polonium, named after Poland, and radium. They worked in terrible conditions, in a shed, processing tons of ore to get a tiny grain of radium. The tragedy is that they didn't know about the dangers of radiation. Marie died of aplastic anemia, caused by radiation exposure. Her notebooks are still radioactive today. Radioactivity gave us nuclear power, medical diagnostics, and cancer treatment. But also, the atomic bomb and the Chernobyl tragedy. It is a power that humanity has been learning to control for over a century.